Christmas in the Acme Ballroom by Mable Brown Stewart. Letter 14. Sorry. December 17th. Dear Miss Hatch, I'm wondering what your first name is. I can't remember. I think I knew it at one point. Oh, I hope you don't think I'm being disrespectful. I'm just curious is all. Okay, here's what happened since the last time I wrote. Darla stayed at the Acme after the fiasco in the costume storage crypt. We hung out in the ballroom and we put on some music and we let Larry out of his tank so he could scrabble around on the floor. We lit some candles and Darla sat down and wrote apology letters to Henry, Ivy, and Jamal. They were really heartfelt. Did you ever play that board game called Sorry? Darla decorated each one of the envelopes so they looked like the cover of the game. She wrote Sorry in really big colorful letters and then taped a game piece on each one. Her letters are really sweet and sad. Oh, I'm so nervous going to school the next day, but I had the letters in my backpack and I'm hoping for the best. The first person I run into is Jamal. He's old enough to drive himself to school and he has this really cool old Subaru that looks kind of like a truck, but not quite. Hey, Jamal, I say, trying to sound chipper. I don't usually stutter when I talk to him. Hey, Mo, what's going on? He looks like he's trying to act normal, too. Hey, Darla wrote you a letter. She feels really bad about what happened. I suddenly feel like crying, but I really don't want to. It would be weird to cry again in front of Jamal. I thought about it. It's not that big a deal. Let's head in and find Henry and Ivy. Oh my gosh, Miss Hatch. His words make me feel such relief. He goes on, I can't stop thinking about Jeff, though. I know. I wish Mrs. D would tell me more. So, one down. We find Henry and Ivy standing by my locker. My door is covered with Christmas wrapping paper and ribbon, and there's a sign that says, You're a gift, Mo. Did you guys do this? I ask. Henry says, Sad to say no. I think it's from Janice and Lana. He lifts up a paper flap under her sign, and there are all kinds of hearts surrounding where Janice and Lana had signed their names. Kind of hard to believe, sighs Ivy, shaking her head slowly. Yeah, they were the main suspects from yesterday, says Jamal. I remember Mrs. D saying she had a long talk with Janice and Lana. Wonder if that has something to do with these new decorations. I hand Henry and Ivy the apology letters from Darla, and they seem reluctant, especially Ivy. She really hurt my feelings. Is my voice really that soft? We all rush to reassure her, but the truth is, she does need to project. Mrs. D is always telling her that. I figure she'll feel much better when she reads the letter. Darla gushes over Ivy, and it's very sincere. Darla is such a great writer. You should read her poetry. Before we all head to our classes, Henry says, You know, Mo, what happened yesterday wasn't your fault. I'm just not sure about Darla, adds Ivy. She doesn't seem that nice. Oh no, there's still a rift. We have our last rehearsal before break this afternoon. Wish me luck. Bye for now. Mo. Christmas in the Acme Ballroom by Mable Brown Stewart. Letter 15. Jeff again. December 17th. Dear Miss Hatch, So things are pretty awkward when I get to rehearsal. Henry, Ivy, and Jamal are all standing together in the theater lobby, and Darla's about 10 feet away, looking totally miserable. I walk over to her. They haven't forgiven me, she whispers. Janice and Lana bounce up. Did you see your locker? Janet asks with a wide grin. Oh, yeah, thanks. It looked very nice, I say. I'm trying to rally, but I feel a little suspicious. I'm sorry someone was so mean and awful the other day, Janice says. I mean, who does something like that? Asks Lana. There's a pause. Thanks again for decorating my locker, I say, hoping they'll go away. Just remember who helped you out when you're making our costumes, Janice announces happily as she edges away. Lana snores, she's just kidding. They leave whispering and giggling. Mrs. D has called us all together to read through The Tempest one more time before we go to winter break. The theater doors are locked, and Mrs. D has taped a sign to the door which reads, "I will open the doors for you momentarily. When I do, please enter quietly." What's going on? Darla wonders. I shrug. No clue. Just then, Mrs. D opens the door. She doesn't say anything, but she holds her index finger up to her lips, signaling silence. We all follow her into the theater. The lights are very low, and when we arrive at the stage, we see Mrs. D has arranged our chairs in a circle once more. Only this time there is a ring of candles forming a circle inside the chairs. They flicker gently, providing us with warm light. There are greens and holly branches winding through the candle holders. It's stunning. I mean, the stage looks so beautiful, so much like Christmas. Can barely catch my breath. "Please take your seat," Mrs. D says solemnly. No one says a word, but we all file into the circle and find a spot. Darla and I sit down, and Henry, Jamal, and Ivy choose the seats on the other side of the circle. Mrs. D clears her throat. "This time of year gives us an opportunity for reflection. We embrace the extra darkness of the shortened days and trust in the promise that light will return. This is a time when we must acknowledge what has been haunting us and then move forward into the sun. Tonight we will read the play with only the light provided by the candles. Breathe, please." We all do our quiet breathing exercises that Mrs. D taught us. After a few minutes, Mrs. D rings a chime. "Consider the message of the play we are creating together. Retribution and forgiveness. Freedom and confinement. Betrayal and compassion. Allow William Shakespeare's characters to inhabit you and change you for the better. Sometimes words are all we have." And so we read the words, and it is incredible, Miss Hatch. Sure, kids are stumbling over their lines sometimes, and at one point, Jamal lights his script on fire by leaning too close to a candle, but Oliver, who plays Trinculo, quickly stamps it out. Then everyone gets right back into it. Everyone is listening so closely, it's like we're a circle of energy. When we finish the play, Mrs. D doesn't give any notes. She just reminds us to spend some time in nature. And then she waves her hand toward the doorway. We have been dismissed. I hang back just a little, so I'm the last one out. I want to say something to her, but I'm unsure. She doesn't watch us leave. She just stares into the circle of candles, lost in thought. I decide now is not the time to talk to her, and so I walk out, the last one in the line. I can hear the chatter of my castmates as they hit the lobby of the theater. I look back for just a moment, and I see something. Well, two things, actually. I see something moving in the circle. It looks like a small animal moving in between the candles. I can't tell exactly what kind of animal it is, but it's small and on 4 short legs. Mrs. D seems to be talking quietly to it. And then Mrs. D raises her hands straight into the air and brings them down suddenly in a swooping motion. The candles all blow out at once. Poof! Darkness! Startled, I hurry towards the light of the open door and out into the lobby. Darla glances at me as we walk outside. "Mo, you look like you saw a ghost." "No," I say. "But I think I may have seen Jeff." Most sincerely, Mo.